All right, everyone, welcome. I was just making sure, testing my delays and everything. All right, welcome to September is Significant. And today we're talking about how to detox from thinking small. And so, what I would like for you to do, if you watch the welcome video, then you know that we're going to do it's a series of 12 like key All right, data everyone, points. welcome. I All was right, just making sure, that testing delay my delays and is is long. All right, so we're going to talk about 12 key data points for you to track throughout this series. So if you do not understand what I'm talking about, go back and watch video one because we are going to really focus on and hone in on our p-value, our statistical significance, the 5% that we can control. So this is what I want you to do. I've done research for people who've taken self-study courses. I didn't have as much data as I would have liked to gather on the actual like form I put out, but I got a lot of, comments and word of mouth and just being in that environment. And what people, especially in the personal development space, when you're doing anything about self-help and it can appear like it's not tangible or intangible, like you don't have something to hold on to, like I'm I want to generate more money, so I have the things I need to do to generate sales. Like I know what I'm supposed to do, right? and what people So what I want to do with these data points is to give you something tangible. So think of this as your like personal leadership. These are the things that you can actually track. Like I said in sales, you can like, well, I can track the number of people I talk to, I can track the number of sales, I can track the number of products, but you can do the same thing in personal development or personal leadership. So what I want you to do, this is another thing that people often don't do, and it's something that I did not do when I first started out, is have a vision of where you want to have a vision in your mind, and that's what we're going to talk about. And then everything for these next points or these next courses in the series, I want you to have that vision in your mind. I'm not really talking about just one goal. I want you to have an overall vision. It may change. Don't get stuck on because people are like, I don't know my purpose. What is my calling? You do know what it is. And I'm going to get into that. And then, so let's say you don't know right now, but by the end of this video, you should have a vision in your mind that you can filter out everything else that we're going to talk about. So for example, I'll just give you the heads up for the next lesson. When I talk about separate your list, and we'll go into that talking about what's how do you quit like a pro, and we'll get into that. You're going to everything that I talk about and the steps that I'm going to share with you, you're going to do that based on your vision. What happens, and you can go back and watch the video, I had someone comment, what happens is we take what someone that we're watching, we take what they say and we try to do it exactly like what they say. When it comes to certain things, there are times where you take what the person says, but you have to use your own filter. And there are times when you take what they say and do exactly what they say to get the results. This is where you stand in your own power, your own leadership to determine which is which. All right. So today it says step up your vision, how to detox from small thinking. I've been in a lot, I keep telling y'all this, I've been in a lot of space, especially over these last few months, where different high level coaches and classes and, and things like that calls. And the lead person will say, well, what is a revenue number you want to hit, or where would you like to be in the next month? And I was just on one yesterday, and somebody was like, well, by the end of this month I would like to get one client. And it was like, are you serious? So that just one? And I was on a call where, last month, and somebody was like, well, we have about 5 months left in a year. What is your revenue goal? And somebody was like $100,000. Now, I'm not saying that to say that you shouldn't have that, but the person who was leading it was talking about just put out a number, not what you can do, just what would you like to do? That wasn't even, it was like, what would you like to do? It was about dreaming, right? And it was like, if your vision is only to hit $100,000 or just to impact one person, and I know like in the teaching profession, it was like, if I could just reach one student, then it'd be all worthwhile. And truth be told, that's low level thinking too, because God didn't put us on the planet just to reach one person. is one at maybe is one at a time. But for those of those of you who are called and you feel that pull to do even more, you need to start thinking bigger and saying it out loud. So you need to step up your vision. And so for me, I used to, if you go watch some of my old videos, I used to say transform the face to help a million people transform the face of education or something like that. And it wasn't until I started doing the work for my curated virtual expo, and you can see that information down below, where I was like, you know what, let me say what I have been wanting to say for maybe almost a decade now, was to bankrupt 1 billion burial plots, meaning I want to be able to reach 1 billion people through any businesses that I have, impact, influence, and income. And I didn't say that out loud for a long time. I just started saying that out loud, and then I realized like the reason why a lot of things weren't working, quote unquote, working in the past, and they do work. They either work on you or for you. The reason why they weren't working for me, it was working on me, but it wasn't working for me because my vision was too small. And you might be thinking, well, you started off with a million people. But here's the thing, there are people right now on any platform with a million followers or a million people subscribed to their email list. Like there are people who are doing that now. There are people who got the size of small countries, their following size, right? So impacting a million people for me was not big enough. Now, I'm not saying that for you, this is where people fall off and they go into the spiral. They're like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not important because I don't have that desire to impact a billion or a million people. And that is okay. But what's not okay is for you settling for, oh, if I can just reach this one person or if I can just reach 10 people. This is what I mean, where you need to step up your vision and start to go to that place that you write about and you daydream about. The part where when you're quiet and you're like, I wish I could do X, Y, and Z, or it would be nice if I could start an orphanage, or end world hunger, like real talk, or fix the water supply, whatever. Some things that are so big, some of you are called to do that, but you have not stepped up your vision. You've been too lazy. This is what, for some of us, you know we've gotten comfortable. We've gone through school, and the big thing, highlight thing, was go to college, graduate, get a great job. When you get the job, then it's like, well, go to the next level and move up the ladder. And then you get there and then you stop and you wonder why you're stuck. Well, that was just one part of a dream, but that wasn't your overall vision. I'm pretty sure that ever since you were younger, you've had some kind of idea of what you wanted to do. This is the season for you to go back and tap into that, because like, what are you afraid of? If you're still in this sea of sameness, that's because you haven't stepped up your vision. You're still thinking too small. Now, listen to what I'm saying and make sure you filter it. If you know, like, I definitely am not called to re- to do all of that, but what are you called to? I was watching the show, and this lady, she was a midwife for, they're similar to like the Amish people. I forgot what they're, the median nights. Maybe, I don't know if they call them the median nights for the show or what, but they were similar to the Amish, community. So she was the midwife for them because they didn't want to go into like modern medicine and things like that. So she had been practicing with this community as a midwife for 40 years. And then she got in trouble, they took her to jail, like, you can't practice anymore. And she was like, well, that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years. That is what my call is. And I've, impacted, hundreds and potentially thousands, because, with the healthy kids, and they go up and grow up and then they go impact others and things like that. And so she was like, well, what do I do next? That's all I know. And then one of her lawyer consultants, he was like, no, that's not all that you were called to do. Now it's time for you to take the knowledge that you have done and the experience that you have and go train others with the modern twist on it so you can impact even more. What happens, I believe, is that a lot of us have gotten to a career point in our lives, personal, professional, you insert whatever, and you've gotten to that place and you stopped dreaming. You've settled. You haven't been, you put it to the side because maybe you think it's too late. And so then now you start thinking too small. You go to these vision board parties, you cut out your vision board, and it's some of the things that's like, well, maybe I should do because I see this person. And you might think I'm an individual, I do my own thing, but subconsciously, no, you don't. You are following the people because you are afraid to put your real thing out. I have done this. I have been on like calls, coaching calls, and they're like, well, what is your like goal for this month? What is your revenue goal? And I'll see people put like 20,000 or 15,000, all of this right here. And I was like, 400,000, but I would not type it in the chat. Why? Because I was like, I don't want anybody to ask me nothing, say anything to me. So I was like, wait a minute, who cares? If that is my goal in my mind, that's a vision for myself, then why shouldn't I do that? But the moment that I did not do it and I hesitated, then I'm telling my brain, oh, well, then maybe it is good just to say 10,000 for right now. Now, there are times when you can be delulu and dream big, and then there are times where you put things in place so you can execute. And it's better to go high and then be like, oh, well, maybe I only did 10, but at least you stretch your brain to go that far than to stretch your brain just to like 10. And I'm using money, but it could be anything. It could be weight, it could be types of relationships, it can be writing, a book, it can be anything that you settled for. I remember there are some people. Oh, let me go back. So you say, okay, well, I only want to get 5 clients, or I only want to release 10 pounds, or make $10,000, or uh get one join one networking group. I don't know. Just put in something. And then so it's really small. And you tricked yourself to thinking that, oh, that's just a huge thing. That's outside of my comfort zone. If I just do this much, and then you end up doing nothing because we know ourselves. Our insides know us better than we try to project. So when you do that, then you are lying to yourself. And if you keep lying to yourself, then you're never going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. When you go bigger, when you detox yourself from thinking small and you step up your vision, your brain starts looking, and you've heard this. You've heard this so many times. Your brain starts looking for answers like, how can I go solve this problem? Wouldn't it be great? Like instead of saying, "Oh, I can only generate $10,000," or "I can only, release 10 pounds or gain 10 pounds," depending on where you are, or you might want to get into real estate. Your true desire is to have multi-door units, but you're like, well, if I can just get one small investment property, then it's like, well, you're not going to do that because your brain, your whole being is saying like you really don't want to do that. So then you find yourself being stuck instead of going dreaming big and saying, I want, I don't know, a 12-door unit. And then your brain, like, how could I do that? What would it look like if I did do that? Not in the how. And you hear that so much. Stop focusing on the how, but I don't think you realize how detrimental that can be in the beginning for you to start focusing on the how. I know that I've been there. Practical example to bring it back down. When I was getting, and you've heard this story, when I was getting my doctorate degree, and I knew from undergrad that it was possible to do it in 3 years. So I always said, if I ever went that route, I'm doing it in 3 years. I have no idea how that's possible. I've never heard anybody do it in 3 years except for my undergrad professor at the time. So all through my life, it was just in the back of my mind. So when the opportunity presented itself for me to go get my doctorate degree, finishing in 3 years was it. I had already set up that vision in my mind. There was no backtracking, and I did it. But I only started focusing on the how as I got closer to doing the actual thing. I didn't just daydream myself into a PhD. There were steps that I had to take, but it had already been planting that seed. So whatever that is, whatever that big vision is, you have to start writing it down and saying it out loud, even if people think that you're delulu, you're nuts, you're out of your mind. But then we look at people like Elon Musk and we're like, oh, well, he's, forward thinking and he's, brilliant and doing all those things. But I'm pretty sure when he first started talking about, Tesla and going to into space, people thought he was crazy. But he had a bigger vision. Well, regardless of what you think about him, go see why he wants to do these things. His vision is huge. Same thing with some of these other quote unquote successful people. It's the vision. It's not the type of company. It's not the products. It's not the service. It is the vision. And it is the vision that will keep you moving forward. So if you don't have that set up, it doesn't matter what course you take. It doesn't matter what coach you get. It doesn't matter what skill you learn. None of that, all of that will fall flat if you don't have your vision in check. Because what's going to happen, even if you can work with me and you don't have your vision in place, you're just going to cycle through and just do the things. If I say, okay, do these things, you'll go through like your school, you'll do the assignments, and then you'll tuck them away. But for those of you that went to school, you want to know why you did those assignments. You did those assignments because the bigger vision was for you to graduate. For those of you that are working in a corporate atmosphere or a place where there's a way for you to move up, I'm like, what's the word I'm trying to think? To move up, there are things for you to do, and you do those mundane tasks so that you can keep going up the ladder. There is a bigger vision for you in place. So why don't you have that outside of that? What is that for your life? It doesn't always mean go jump into entrepreneurship. You know, the virtual expo that I have, it was shift your way of thinking, not to jump ship, because a lot of y'all, and I was at first I was gonna say me, I was like, no, I think I'm supposed to be in this place. But a lot of y'all are trying to be entrepreneurs, and that is not where God told you to go. He didn't tell you to go be an entrepreneur. So suck it up, buttercup, and say, okay, let me go step it up. What am I supposed to do? Or you may supposed to be that person in your career space. You can be an entrepreneur in your career space because there's probably a place for you to impact people. And that if you use it right, then you go to your next level and things like that. Maybe got one, like I know I didn't want to be a college professor. But then when I got there and I was doing all these things, even though it didn't feel right all the time, looking back, God strategically put me there for some key moments. And then it was time for me to move. And then I was like, well, is that not my purpose? No, that was just my assignment for that time. So you have to understand, what is your big vision, and be okay with understanding your calling and your assignment. Stop getting so caught up in, I see this person doing that, so maybe I should do it. If it's not aligned to your vision, that has nothing to do with you. There are some key skills that you will need to do. That's more of the how. But like I said, none of that matters unless you have your vision. And it has to be something big. It can't be what we have on these vision boards, or, I want to, get married, have a family, or I want to write one book, or I want to travel. Those are small. That is small thinking. And I can talk like this, one, because I had to check myself. I don't come on here and say anything that I haven't done and had conversations with myself or another coach. Just like when I taught math, if I didn't work out the problem, or if I didn't know how to do it, I did not assign it to my students, because I want to make sure that I knew their pitfalls and their misconceptions and their errors. And that made me a stronger teacher for them. And this is what makes me a better strategist, coach, consultant, advisor, all of those things. Well, I was about to say something, but I'll share that somewhere else. And so you need to really be honest with yourself. I think a lot of you are lying to yourself about what you really want to do. And then you get upset, and then you may be in a state of depression or not feeling fulfilled, And I have those things like on my website, if you're not feeling fulfilled, but this is why. Maybe no one's told you you're not feeling fulfilled because you're not being honest with yourself about the vision that you have for your life. I don't care if it is, I want to cure cancer. I want to find the I what would it be like if there was a cure for breast cancer, or something like that? You know, I don't the Susan G. Komen, I haven't, this is off the top of my head, so I haven't done like the full studies, but I don't know if she's the one or they named it in her honor, but whoever's running that, they had a vision, and that thing has been going for years, like I think decades at this point, where it's a raise, is they fundraise, all those kind of things. That was a big vision. So use those things as an example. It's not always just starting a business. It could be a foundation. It could be a type of school. It could, you insert whatever. You know what it is. Don't sit there and say that I have to go to somebody so they can help me find my purpose. No, what they should be doing is giving you questions to help you unlock what's already inside of you. Nobody can tell you. You go to God, ask him, and either Holy Spirit will reveal something to you, or he will send someone to you to help you uncover what's inside of you. So I got a little passionate. I think I went off script, but it's really about, if you don't watch anything else, if you don't sit there and take the time to set up your vision and detox yourself from small thinking, when you're thinking small, because if it's on the opposite end of your big vision. So, for example, I told you my big vision, one of them is to bankrupt 1 billion burial plots, help a billion people some way, somehow, live a life poured out while they are above ground. One way I can do that is helping them to pick their own brain, manage whatever is their knowledge that they have, put it in a system and structure so that they can become the experts of whatever industry they're in. And there are 5 skill areas that I think all thought leaders should be utilizing, right? Now, I can't do that by myself. So if I'm like, well, I only want to talk to one person, or I really don't want to do any webinars, or if I'm a little nervous and I just put out a story where I said I was nervous about something that I needed to do. So if I'm thinking like that, I was like, well, if I only do one video a week, or if I only put one post out a day, and it took a lot for me to do that, you're lying to yourself. You're thinking too small, and that's the opposite. Well, I would be lying to myself. I'm thinking too small. That's the opposite end of my vision. So you can't call yourself out from thinking too small. You can't detox yourself from thinking too small until you get the bigger vision in your mind. And then you have to be honest with yourself about your comfort zone. Your comfort zone, you may think you're stretching yourself, but here's one way to test your comfort zone. There's one guy, I forgot his name, on YouTube. He may have like 5 million subscribers at this point. I think first name is David Avila, something like that. And he used to do something for 30 days straight to test himself, whether take cold showers for 30 days straight, go without no coffee for 30 days straight, go out in public and just say hello to strangers for 30 days straight. He would do things like that. And I think what happens once we've gotten outside of, and I use a lot of college because that's my background. Once we've graduated college, or we've landed our dream careers, we don't feel like we haven't stepped outside of a comfort zone yet. Some of us, the last time we were outside of our comfort zones was college, or was starting a new job, right? Or maybe it was starting a family, or whatever it is. You've done something and then you've rested. In order for you to keep going and not have that feeling of, I don't know my purpose, I feel unfulfilled, you're not pushing past your, and I heard comfort zone, but then in a coach I had would use a limit line. You know what bumps up your limit. You know what it, when you get right there and you feel that jerk, that's the line you need to cross, right? So for me, just transparent moment, what I put on my story is like, I had stopped doing Instagram, and then because I was it a lot of head chatter. And then this morning it was like, okay, you need to start going back live on Instagram. It took me like an hour and a half for me to get back up and do a live. Like, I have no problem doing live videos, but it was something about Instagram. So I did not do it today, but I am going to do it later today. That's that line right there. For whatever reason, now I have to do it. Those things can be so small. And that's why I started with the statistical significance. If you're not willing to do those things right there, to that 5% that you can control, then you just tell yourself, you know what, I just want to be regular. I just want to live my life, and stop telling people that you feel unfulfilled, because you don't. You like it. You like where you are. And it's okay if you like that. It is okay. Just like there are people used to tell me that they wish they could go back to school and get their doctor degrees. And I'm like, well, first of all, everybody should not. But if you had that in your mind, then say, okay, well, these are the things you need to do. Oh, I don't want to do all that. It doesn't take all that. Well, then you don't want to do it. If you want to stay where you are, some of these were classroom teachers. If you want to stay in the classroom, cool. Go retire there in 30 years. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. But don't sit there and say, oh, I feel unfulfilled as, a teacher, when you have the opportunity to push your limit line and expand. Because once you expand your mind, once you truly give yourself permission to sit in that vision, say it out loud. Well, first write it down, then get comfortable with saying out loud. Your brain cannot shrink back to the same place. It will never go back into the same place. So that's how you start detoxing the thinking small. And then that's how you start setting up and stepping up your vision. All right. So one thing I want you to do is just sit with, just write, this is your self-work. Just write out that secret goal. Just write out, what is the thing, no matter how insane it sounds, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, what is the thing that you would love to create in this world? I don't care if you are 16 or 96. If you're still able to get on the platform and you have all of your functions, you get to do it too, because God can do things in 6 days. Then you got time, right? If you still have breath in your body and you got time. So what is that thing? Write it down and sit with it and start saying it to yourself. And then once you do that, then everything I share with you for the next 11 parts, you keep that in your mind and then you start filtering everything I'm talking about because we're only focusing on your p value, your 5%, the statistical significance that will help you move forward and catapult yourself into your next season. I end with there's more to do. There's you can do more in 2024 because I want to rhyme. So make sure you do that. If you don't do that, don't watch another video because that's another problem. We'll sit here and we'll listen to all of this. Oh, that was good. Or anybody, that was great. You may take some notes and then you do nothing. And then you wonder why you're still in the same place. And I used to hear this from high level people, people who have the type of success I wanted. They will say, I'm not smarter than you, you're probably smarter than me, but the difference is I take more action than you do and I do it faster than you do. Or if something doesn't work out, I keep doing it over and over. And you're like, wow, so this is part of that. I'm trying to break it down as plainly as possible. This is part of the action for you. Start training your brain. You know what, I just heard something and she said to let me write down my big vision. Let me make sure I do that right now today, or at least just type up some notes. You have to do something right in the moment. If you don't do that, don't watch another video because I don't know. I would love the watch time. I would love for you to subscribe, but I don't want to be responsible for you just moving through life, just collecting more information and not implementing. All right. So I love you. I really do. I really do care about you. And so if you would like to know more and if you want to be connected with me off of a platform, like if you want to talk to me directly, after I'm starting to do a series, the first one starts September 10th at the time of this video. And you can go to register for the Curated Virtual Expo. It was already passed, so it's pre-recorded. I left it up and go through the series and hearing some of these great speakers and experts to give you practical knowledge on moving from resume to reinvention to remarkable. If you decide to upgrade, to become a VIP or next level attendee, as I like to say, then you can upgrade and then you'll be able to join one of those workshops. And in those workshops, we will be talking about putting a plan in place for you, whether you continue to work with me or go with someone else. But take all the information that you've heard throughout the virtual expo or even from this series and say, okay, how do I make all of this work? Where are my blind spots? I need to know what my next steps for my next now steps are. And that's what we will do in the workshop. You will fill out a questionnaire so it can be curated for you. It is not a master class. It is not a teaching. It is like a legit workshop. And I'll put some structure in place, but it's you drive it. So it's almost like a mini coaching session. I mean, I'll say consulting because it's not coaching. It'll be like a consulting session where you come in and say, all right, all of this is in my head. I don't even know what to do. Great, let's go do that. If you don't want to do anything with the virtual expo and you're like, I don't want all these emails and I don't want to sit there and watch all these videos, then great, you can jump straight into the workshop and then you can, invest a little more because you don't want to you just want the fast track. And then you can go that way. That information is down below. We start the first one is September 10th, but then I have, I think, 6 more after that. I'm going to November. So this is your opportunity to have a consultant, someone who can see your blind spots and say, hey, let's move in this direction. If I can't do that, I can hook you up with someone who probably can. And that would be better, a good introduction, because normally if you want to have a laser focused deep dive session with me, it is $5,000 an hour. And there are people who have paid that. So I would love workshop style because I think those are fun. All right, so make sure you go ahead and set up your vision and step up your vision. That was a powerful day one of our September is Significant series. So if you like that vibe, go ahead and subscribe and make sure you comment, like, and share. And I will see you on the other side. Bye.